The wind coming off Lake Michigan cut through the streets of Chicago like a sharpened blade, stinging any skin left uncovered. Even at midday, the sky hung low and heavy, the kind of gray that made the street lamps glow faintly, as though they had been tricked into thinking it was night. Michael Hayes shoved his hands deeper into the pockets of his late mother's jacket. The old navy blue parka was a size too big, but it still carried the faint smell of lavender detergent and antiseptic, a reminder of her life as a nurse. It had been 6 months since the fire. 6 months since the frantic phone call, the sirens screaming toward the hospital, and the news that she never made it out. People told him that grief softened with time, that the weight grew lighter. For Michael, it hadn't. Some mornings, he still expected to hear her humming in the kitchen. Other days, the silence pressed so hard it left him gasping outside the corner Bean Cafe, where he picked up part-time shifts. His friends were waiting in Matt Walker's Dodge Charger. Music pulsed through the car doors, a beat that didn't match the rhythm of Michael's chest. Matt drummed on the steering wheel, impatient as always. Chris Delgado sat in the back seat, scrolling on his phone without looking up, while Jordan Price nursed a paper cup from a trendy cafe down the block. "Mike," Matt called, rolling down the window. His breath came out in fog. "Come on, man, we're gonna miss the trailers. You know the previews are the best part." Michael forced a smile, raising a hand in acknowledgement but not moving. A year ago, Saturday movie nights had been effortless, a highlight of their week. Now they felt like performances, him pretending to laugh, pretending to care, just to avoid the questions his friends didn't know how to ask. The sidewalk bustled around him. Commuters hurried past with collars pulled high, the bus brakes sighing as more people spilled into the cold. Chicago never slowed down. It moved forward, whether you were ready or not. Michael adjusted the strap of his backpack, his shoulders tightening under the weight of it. He heard his mother's voice in his head, gentle but firm. "Life's worth isn't measured by how comfortable you are, but by how much you're willing to carry for someone else." She had repeated that line every time she dragged him out of bed to help at the neighborhood clinic or to deliver soup to an elderly neighbor. He swallowed hard, staring down the street at the idling Charger. His friends laughed about something inside, their voices muffled by tinted glass. Michael felt the distance like a wall. He wanted to feel normal again, but normal had slipped away the night the fire consumed his mother's hospital wing. And though he couldn't explain why, he knew this winter afternoon was about to change more than just his Saturday plans. A gust funneled down the side street, rattling a loose sign beside the corner Bean Cafe. Michael turned to wave at Matt's Charger and caught a flicker of movement in the narrow alley between the cafe and a shuttered laundromat. "Give me 1 minute," he called. Matt groaned. "Dude, we're losing the previews." Michael stepped into the alley. The light thinned fast, frost traced the edges of dented dumpsters, and a broken dining chair slumped against brick. He almost turned back until a shape near the rear door shifted. Not trash, not wind, something brown and bundled. He moved closer, breath misting. The bundle twitched. A dog lay on its side, ribs sharp under a matted coat. One hind leg was swollen and split by an ugly gash. Dried blood crusted the fur. The dog's chest rose in short, rough pulls. When Michael crouched, two amber eyes opened, glassy with pain but aware. "Hey, buddy," he said softly, keeping his hands where the dog could see. "You're okay, I see you." From the street, Jordan called, "Tell me you're not petting a stray right now." Chris added without looking up, "Animal control exists for a reason, man." Matt's voice carried a practical edge. "ER vets cost a fortune, Mike." The words landed, but so did an older voice in Michael's head, his mother's. "Lean in when others lean away." He inched closer, palm low. "Easy." The dog's ears twitched. On instinct, Michael lifted his hand in a simple open palm cue he'd seen at a K-9 demo once. Even exhausted, the dog tried to tuck its haunches as if to sit, then winced and froze. "Trained or once trained, it's okay," Michael murmured. He shrugged out of his mother's parka and eased it over the trembling body. Cold bit instantly through his sweatshirt. The dog's breathing hitched, then settled a fraction. A thin tail thumped once against concrete, more suggestion than wag behind him. The Charger's engine revved. "Last call," Matt shouted. Michael didn't look back. He slid a hand beneath the dog's neck to keep the head off the icy ground, eyes scanning for a collar. Nothing. No tag, no chip bulge he could feel. "Not leaving you here," he said, more to himself than to the dog. He pulled out his phone with numb fingers and typed "nearest emergency vet Chicago." Whatever this did to his Saturday or his bank account could wait. The dog couldn't. Michael's search pulled up a veterinary clinic 15 blocks away, far too long a walk while carrying a 70-pound injured dog in the freezing wind. His friends honked impatiently from the Charger, urging him to give up. But when the dog pressed its head weakly against his chest, Michael knew he couldn't walk away. At that moment, the back door of the cafe opened and Rachel Kim stepped out. She froze at the sight. "Oh my, what happened?" "Found him here," Michael said. "He's hurt bad, I can't leave him." Without hesitation, Rachel crouched beside him, already pulling out her phone. "There's an emergency vet on Belmont." "I'll call an Uber." Minutes later, a silver SUV pulled up. The driver saw the bundle in Michael's arms and simply said, "Get in." At the clinic, Dr. Harris examined the dog quickly. Severe infection, malnutrition, high fever. He'll need fluids, antibiotics, maybe surgery, several thousand to start. The words hit Michael like ice. He barely had 500. Please just don't give up on him. Harris paused, then softened. You're Hayes's boy, aren't you? Your mother once sat with a patient no one else would. That kind of compassion doesn't vanish. Rachel squeezed Michael's arm. We'll find help. People care more than you think. For the first time since the alley, Michael felt the weight was no longer his alone. 2 days later, the vet hospital felt like home. Michael slept in chairs with his mother's jacket folded close, while Rachel brought sandwiches and updates from a small GoFundMe. Donations trickled in just enough to buy time. In the treatment room, the dog was stronger, lifting his head and even wagging his tail. Michael had started calling him Scout, loyal, alert, determined. The fragile calm shattered when a man in a weathered leather jacket barged into the lobby. I'm here for my dog, he declared. Confused, Michael stood. Excuse me? The shepherd mix, brown coat, bad leg, name's Duke, he's mine. Rachel stiffened. You mean Scout, the man scoffed. Cute name. But he belongs to me. Dr. Harris arrived, firm but calm. Proof is required, records, license, microchip. Without it, this animal is under medical custody. The man bristled. He was trained for police work. Cost me a fortune, I'm not leaving without him. Michael's voice sharpened. If he was yours, why was he starving, bleeding, and abandoned in an alley? A hoarse bark came from the treatment room. Scout trembled, pressing against Michael's knees the moment the man appeared. Rachel whispered, he remembers, and he's terrified. Defeated, the man cursed and stormed out. Michael stroked Scout's back. What if he comes back? Dr. Harris's reply was steady. Then we'll be ready. The law protects him now. Scout's tail tapped faintly, an unspoken promise of trust. The days that followed felt like a blur of coffee cups, waiting room chatter, and quiet prayers whispered through glass. Scout's fever finally broke, and though his leg remained wrapped in thick bandages, the dog began lifting his head more often, ears twitching at the sound of Michael's voice. For the first time, there was real hope. Rachel arrived one morning with her laptop tucked under her arm. She sat beside Michael and opened the GoFundMe page. We're over 2,000, she said, showing him the screen. Look, neighbors, old classmates, even people we don't know are donating. Michael rubbed his tired eyes. It's still nowhere near enough. It doesn't have to be today, she said gently. People want to follow this. They want updates, true enough. Every time she posted a picture of Scout, his nose poking from under a blanket, his paw resting against Michael's arm, the donations trickled faster. Messages came too, praying for this pup. Keep fighting, Scout. You're not alone. One afternoon, Michael brought his textbooks to the waiting area, trying to study between check-ins. Scout shifted on his blanket in the treatment room, watching through the glass. A volunteer snapped a photo. Michael bent over his notes, Scout's eyes fixed on him, and shared it online. By evening, the picture had spread beyond their neighborhood. With each step forward, Scout grew stronger. He managed a few wobbly steps with the help of a sling. He lapped water eagerly, wagged his tail when Rachel crouched to scratch behind his ears. Once, in a rare lighthearted moment, he stole half of Michael's sandwich when no one was watching, crumbs scattering across the blanket. Rachel laughed so hard the tension in the room cracked wide open. Michael found himself laughing too, real laughter, the kind that reached his chest. Dr. Harris watched the scene with quiet approval. He's healing, he said, and so are you. That evening, Rachel spread a notepad across the waiting room table. You know, this doesn't have to stop with Scout. She sketched circles and arrows, her handwriting quick and bold. We could create something bigger, a place for rescues like him, but also for people, kids who have lost someone, veterans who need healing, a center where animals and humans help each other. Michael hesitated, staring at her notes. It sounded impossible. He was barely keeping his head above water. But when he looked back at Scout, who had settled with his chin on his paws and his eyes half closed in trust, the idea no longer felt crazy. His voice was quiet but certain. A haven, he said, a safe harbor for both of us. Scout's tail tapped against the floor as if in agreement. Spring sunlight filled the clinic lobby, casting warm squares across the floor. Scout, cleaner now, still lean but steadier, took careful steps with Michael's hand on the sling supporting his healing leg. That afternoon, a grief support group visited. Among them was Lily, a quiet 7-year-old who hadn't spoken since her mother's sudden passing. She clutched a worn stuffed rabbit, eyes lowered. While adults spoke, Scout shuffled closer and lay down a few feet away, head on his paws, tail sweeping once in patient invitation. Minutes passed. Slowly, Lily set down the rabbit and edged closer. With trembling fingers, she touched Scout's ear. He leaned into her hand, calm and unflinching. The room stilled. Then came her whisper, "Good boy." Her father's eyes filled with tears. Rachel pressed her hand to her mouth. Even Dr. Harris blinked hard. Michael knelt throat tight, realizing he was witnessing a miracle. A volunteer snapped a photo. Lily's tiny hand on Scout's fur, her lips forming words, her father overcome with awe. Shared online, it spread quickly, stories, encouragement, donations pouring in. That night, Scout curled against his leg. Michael read a message. My husband is a veteran. Dogs like Scout save lives every day. Don't stop now. Michael stroked Scout's neck, whispering, "You're not just surviving, you're teaching us how to live." Scout's tail thumped softly, steady as a heartbeat. A year later, Chicago felt different. Harsh winter winds had given way to crisp autumn air, leaves scattering along the riverfront. Where an abandoned warehouse once stood, bright murals now painted its walls. At the center, a bold image of Scout. Above the entrance, large letters read, "Safe Harbor Center." Inside, life buzzed. Volunteers trained rescues, children read beside calm dogs, veterans shared coffee and stories with therapy companions. It had become more than Michael or Rachel ever imagined, a community built on compassion. Scout moved through the halls with quiet confidence, his limp barely visible. He seemed to know who needed him most, offering patience to a nervous child, steady comfort to a grieving widow. One evening, Michael walked to the garden behind the center. A plaque stood among flowers. In honor of Nurse Evelyn Hayes, she saved lives of every kind. Michael traced the letters. "Mom," he whispered, "we carried it forward." Scout pressed close, grounding him. The memory of that frozen alley returned, but softer now, like a scar that no longer hurt. Weeks later, a small ceremony honored Evelyn's legacy with the Hayes Initiative. Reporters captured Michael and Scout as children released balloons into the sky. Rachel nudged him gently. "Your mom would be proud." Michael smiled. "She always said life's worth is measured by what you carry for someone else." "Guess we're carrying it together." Scout's tail brushed the grass. The sun dipped gold over the river. Saving one life had saved Michael's own, and from it, a haven was born.